Alright, welcome to something a little bit different today. It's been a long weekend here in Australia, so I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I'll just drop this audio, and I hope the in-game audio, we'll just double check, is low, because I have screwed that up in the past. Alright, so basically, I'm going to do a little bit of a rundown on the difference between Grim Dawn and Path of Exile. Now, most of my content on my channel is Path of Exile related, and the reason why is it's just the game that appeals to me, or at least I always said I was disappointed when Diablo 3 came out, and basically I said to myself at the time, you know, all I really wanted to do was find a game that I could play and continue to play endlessly, and always have an expectation that something different was going to happen. And for me, that's what Path of Exile essentially achieved, I guess. So I guess before Diablo 3 came out, if we look before that, I played the absolute shit out of Titan Quest, and I guess I'll get to the reason why that's important at some point. But essentially, Grim Dawn to me is the experience that I felt when I played Titan Quest, and I love Titan Quest. I think I played like 200 hours of Titan Quest. I used to work at EB Games, and I remember there was a sales competition that we had going in the store to get a free copy of Battlefield Bad Company 2 at the time. And basically, the sale was, at the time, I couldn't afford. I worked at EB Games. I couldn't afford to buy the game outright, so I had to win it, which I did. But in that meantime, I played Titan Quest, and I actually got really invested with Titan Quest. I loved it. It was a fantastic game. It just ticked all the boxes that I expected out of a game. So when I played Grim Dawn, I sort of feel the same way. But even at the time, like, I got tired of Titan Quest. Even though Titan Quest, like Grim Dawn, has the same sort of replayability. Like, it has a lot of content. It just wasn't it didn't have I guess, the community that I ended up finding in Path of Exile, which is one of the reasons why I play PoE. Like, you've got trading and everything that's really cool, and sort of that's why I play it. So I guess as a start, like, if you're coming into Grim Dawn expecting an experience which is going to be out of this world that's similar to PoE, and a lot of people, in particular ex-PoE players, will be sitting there going, I've switched to Grim Dawn, rah rah rah, for these reasons, and PoE is not ticking the boxes. It's not because PoE has changed so much that they have walked away from the game and they don't believe it's a good game anymore. It's just, I guess, they might just be looking for something different, and that's what Grim Dawn sort of fills. So, I guess in starting it, Path of Exile is a very seasonal based game, and its mechanics are very hinged on, you know, what the new fad is for this season and what grinding gears announces, and that's really good. That's what PoE does fantastically. In fact, it keeps the game fresh. Grim Dawn is somewhat different though, and I don't actually like comparing the two games on this basis, because Grim Dawn and Path of Exile are not really, they're both ARPGs, but they're not the same game. And I guess when we look at ARPGs this day and age, we're looking at games that are very similar in nature. They both have looting, they both have, you know, awesome monster killing and everything like that. But there's some significant differences between Path of Exile and Grim Dawn that I guess I wanted to point out here. So I guess the first note that I want to make is they're not the same game, and I think that's important. So I guess when we look at things, let's look at just I guess the difficulty levels. So old conventional ARPGs would normally had 3 playthroughs, and Titan Quest was the same, everything else. Now, Path of Exile changed this mechanic in a few patches ago when they released the Fall of Oriath expansion, essentially getting rid of the triple playthrough grind. Now, that was pretty standard. Diablo 2 had it, Titan Quest had it, a whole shitload of other games had it at the time, and Path of Exile went a different direction. Now, in that was sort of an introductory to getting rid of the repetitiveness that these ARPGs can, well, they normally get to a point where they're repetitive. Normally it's when you hit the second playthrough and it's basically a grind fest to get through the game. Path of Exile sort of got rid of that, but this game because it stays so true to what the original stylings of this genre is, it still has that component. And I'll actually say it's not bad to go back and play something a little bit more old school for once. And I guess that's why I started playing it, and I would assume that's why a lot of Path of Exilers like Lifting Nerd Bro and Pox and people like that are playing this game now, is because it's that nostalgic feeling of going back and playing basically an old school ARPG, and that's really what I coined Grim Dawn as compared to Path of Exile. Path of Exile is new age. It's got a huge skill tree. It's ridiculous. Grim Dawn is somewhat not simpler, but more old school. And for those of us who have been playing games for the last, like in my case, I'm 27, so I've been playing games since I was pretty much 10. Like when I could first get games, basically, is when I started playing games. And for me, it's very nostalgic of the old style of playing Diablo and the old style of Titan Quest. For me in particular, I love Titan Quest. In particular, armor sets. It was fantastic. I still have it on my Nintendo Switch, to be honest with you. It's a great game. I even bought it on the Android store for when I'm traveling for work and stuff like that. That's really the big difference between the two. So, aside from that, this has an end game, like any other. So if we have a look at this, so obviously looting is fantastic in this game. It's just of an entirely different level. But the end game is this faction system. Basically, by doing quests throughout the difficulties, you can basically unlock, you can unlock these faction ratings, which gives you access to better gear, and the gear at the end game is crazy in this, by the way. It's just ridiculous, but it's earnable, it's not tradable, and it's a lot less RNG and a lot more targeted. And that's one of the things I found is, you can do a boss run, and you can do a boss run 30 times, and there's a probability that the item that you're looking for is going to drop from that boss. And we're sort of delving into the old school targeted loot farming scenario, which existed in a lot of ARPGs years and years ago, but it's sort of changed with things like PoE, because PoE is more or less, there are targeted loot farming sort of bosses you can do, like I think it's the Vinctar's Square, you get a specific flask, or you can do Shaper, and it is a challenging game to get to that end game. The end game is hard. Path of Exile isn't a forgiving game. It's a great game, but it's not a simple game. I think this sits somewhere in between the chasm between Diablo 3 being easy and very easy. I still play that on my Switch as well. I don't play it on PCs. I don't see the benefit of it. And that's not to shit on Diablo 3. That's a great game. It's just not as good as other games out there. But this sort of sits somewhere in between. I think it's definitely worth playing. Now, graphically, it's I guess not as in its own art style. It's pretty, and it's sort of nostalgic to play. Is it better than Path of Exile? I don't think it is. I like Path of Exile's art style. It's quite good. Diablo doesn't even have a zoom camera, but it still looks great. Like it's not a bad game. Now, who's to say when Diablo 4 comes out, it's not going to shit on all of these games, and that's another whole video, which I'm hoping they announce that at BlizzCon this year. But pardon me. I look at Grim Dawn as not a bad game. Not to mention, like right now, Summoner class is fucking dope. Like this is old school Summoner. I'm basically playing, as you can see, somewhat of a Night King build right now, which is fucking awesome. And I am definitely going to do a build guide on it. And the boss fights are awesome. Like, and it's just a fun game. And I've put in 50 hours so far, so I'm no expert. I'm not at endgame yet. I'm not even close. I haven't finished the expansion content or whatnot. I don't know. I actually will do it, because after playing this for a little bit now I've got good grounds to say this game has improved since beta. I actually bought early access into this game, and I think I got into the alpha. And it was trash. This game was not good when it first came out in alpha. It was chunky and just didn't have very many good mechanics. Now we're 2 expansions down the line, or 3 expansions down the line, and they've done quite well. And it's really enjoyable, and it's got fantastic amounts of loot. Like, it has no end to loot. You'll be constantly picking up items, and the crafting system's robust. Now, is it as robust as Path of Exile? Well, you could argue either or. it's much simpler. Like the gem system in Path of Exile can be a real bastard when trying to 6-link gear and things like that, and then you're falling subject to RNG. And obviously there is a community for this. I haven't gotten involved with it, but this sort of promotes you to play the old school way where you're instancing. And one of the good things about this is there's no seasons, so you can start a character and just play it for as long as you want. You don't have to worry about it expiring in 3 months and then having to start a new character from scratch and start the game from the very start and not getting to level 100. The time that you commit to this character is going to be, it's your character. Hence why I think I've called this character Jorgo, which is basically my all-time old school call sign, because I know that I'm going to continue playing this character until the foreseeable whenever. Like, there's going to be no end to it. And it's great. And obviously you've got, legendary items, and legendaries are rare, but, you've got like 5 classes of items, and legendaries are actually legendary. Like, they have awesome attributes, and they're far and few in between, and they actually look cool. Like, you don't need to worry about... Now, there is Transmogrification. I might do a little bit of a how-to, but, you can create a really dope character without having to, spend money on MTX. And this is another thing, is this game is, I guess, you buy it and that's it. You don't have to spend any more money on it. Like, I've spent like, fuck God, $1,000 easily on Path of Exile Plus, and I don't regret that. I played 2,000 hours of PoE, and I intend to play PoE until the end of time. I'm going to the Path of Exile, or the Exile Con, at the end of the year as well. But as far as value for money, like, this is hours and hours of fun. Like, if you're on a budget, this is a fantastic game to invest your time in. Like PoE is too. It's a free game. But we're talking about the difference between a game with a price tag on it and a free game. And like, it's $50 all up for all the expansions and everything for this. And you know what? I would say it's worth the money. I think if you don't want to play PoE, or if PoE, I guess, turns you off because it is a scary game to look at, this is a great alternative to that. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, I don't want to talk for longer than 15 minutes. So, pretty much to sum up, I think I think if you like PoE, you would like this game. I don't think you would dislike this game. Now, just remembering, this isn't Path of Exile, and don't walk into it expecting it to be Path of Exile. It's very different. I think you need to have a different look at what this game is actually about before you play it. Now, would I suggest it? Fuck yeah. This is great. Like, I'm having a break from PoE. I'm a little bit tired from it. And right now, this is a great alternative. And I can still play a character that I really want to play the way that I want to play. And that's great. It's not like Diablo, where it's funneling me into playing a specific type of character. In my case, I just play Hamadans. I can play, a Necromancer right now and max out my Necromancer skill, and have, like, right now I got 10 minions running around that kick ass, and as it levels up, it changes progressively, and then I got like a bone skill attack. And anyway, for the build guide, let's save for the build guide, Jorgen. Anyway, yeah, I would say if you're keen on this game, and you've seen a bunch of other people playing it, and you want to get into it, I would say do it. I would easily suggest this game. Like, I've played 50 hours of this game, and so far I'm not bored of this at all. Like, I could sit here. I'm big about money, and honestly, this is all about getting bits, which are like basically gold, and you purchase shit, and there's awesome gear, and anything that has great loot farming, and anything with a progression system where I can aim to get to 100 and probably never get to 100. Is a fantastic game in my book, and in particular where there's challenging bosses, and the boss fights in this are fucking mad. So anyway, that's my 10 cents I thought I'd throw in. I've seen other Path of Exilers and content creators put stuff up about this game, and that they've switching. I'm not going to switch back to this game full time. We'll be getting into Path of Exile again once I'm sort of over the burnout hump, and when the next season gets announced. And maybe some speed events. I want to do some racing and shit like that. I'm also going to be hammering Borderlands 3 and maybe a few other games in between, like Wildlands is cheap on Ghost Recon Wildlands and stuff like that. It's pretty cheap at the moment, so I might do some playthrough stuff on that just for the lols. But anyway, if you like this video, if this gives you a bit more clarity about the difference between all the different games, then like and sub to my channel. I'm actually keen to do more videos like this. I've been playing games for a long time, and and I used to sell them for a living as well. So it'd be great to get more discussion on this channel about talking about video games and doing some more content where I share my opinion or view of video games. It's one of the things that I love and I love talking about. All right, anyway, thanks a lot, and like and sub, and bye.